Like, I want it to be whole more than I want it to be broken. God's the most incredible, elaborate author, and I just imagine him painting all over my life, and I just want my life to be his greatest masterpiece. Learn to embrace your body and stop being ashamed. Hi, good evening everyone. Welcome to Girl Talk. It's so good to have you with us again tonight. Thank you for joining us for another episode. And before I forget, actually, this is episode 13. Yes. So this is episode 13 of our first series. So we've got 2 episodes left of this series, and we're going to take a little break from and come back fresh with new ideas, new topics, etc. But I'm excited. We've got some men in our Girl Talk studio. I'm going to introduce them, and then they can tell you a little bit about themselves. We've got our single man on my left, this is John.
Hi guys.
And our married man on my right, Ofe.
Hi guys.
So I'm going to hand over to Danny now. We're going to go right in. And girls, don't forget, you can ask these guys questions. Obviously, be polite, be kind. They said, please be kind. So please message any questions you want to direct at them, that you want to know. Nothing personal like that, but any questions that will help you. Feel free to text and send those questions in, right?
Absolutely. And we have listened to you, and we have heard all your requests for topics. And our main topic was relationships, dating and relationships. We know, girls, that this is like a taboo subject in this time and this era and this generation. It's the hardest thing to know how to date, especially as a Christian woman in this day and age. So we have brought in a single man and a married man to be able to answer all your questions that you may have. So like Pastor Eric said, send them in, and we will obviously try and get through all of them for you. So, single man, John, let's get right to it, because there's so many questions I think that a lot of women want to ask, and it's so hard to navigate that. Laurie, do you want to talk us through? Because obviously you are a single woman, and I know when we kind of brought this discussion topic up, you were like, this definitely needs to be spoken about. So just tell us, as a single woman, some of the obstacles that you feel like you face, if you don't mind being candid.
A bit late now.
No pressure.
I mean, I think being a Christian woman and being single, it's not like you're not approached by men, but it's just knowing, what kind of, when do you kind of pursue a green light, or when do you respond, and what are the kind of no-nos, what are the flags. I think there needs to be a lot more conversations around this, and also some of the things that from talking to other Christian women, a lot of us find that we're approached or smiled at, stared at, but then that's it, and it's kind of like, what was that about?
I guess it's where the guys are kind of trying to figure out, that scary bit. Shall I go talk to her? Yeah. Is she going to shut me down? Is she going to embarrass me? You guys will be able to.
But I have to say, it's so irritating, because if you don't like them, you're kind of glad that they keep walking around. But if they're attractive, you think, why did you do that? Is it me? Is there something? Yeah. And I think you're right. It's that fear of rejection. It's that also trying to suss out, maybe she's with somebody already, or that all of those.
It's that all that second guessing and that thought process, but then nothing happens. And I don't know if this has ever happened to you all, but you may see a girl and you liked her, and because you were like delay, somebody else picked you to the post. That happens. Does that happen, John? Does that happen to you?
In my earlier days when I was younger, I didn't really know how to talk to girls, so I was always a bit slow. But definitely as I've got older, if I've seen someone and I was interested, I would approach them. Because life's too short.
Life's too short. Wow.
Exactly. And I think for me, I had the same thought process before I found my wife, and I remember saying to a guy, you know, I'm umming, I'm ahhing, and what he said is, if she's on point, what makes you think that in that year's time when you're ready to settle down, she'll still be around? And that's what really helped me to actually get going.
That's good, because because you know, you can see somebody and they're not actually going to be sitting there waiting for you, and so it's imperative to ask. I mean, even at the risk, right, of being rejected.
And I think that is one of the things that a lot of men in church have a major issue with, is that fear of rejection. That's the only real reason that I could think of why they don't take that step.
I think girls can be unkind. You know, girls can be unkind. I know I was really unkind before I got saved. I was one of those girls, you know, like, you know, as an unsaved, I'm being honest, as an unsaved, if a guy came up to me, I would look him up and down, and if he did not tick the boxes, it's because I'm checking his shoes, I'm checking him all the way up and down, and if he didn't tick the boxes, I wouldn't even talk to him. I just like, whatever, like, attitude, and walk off. And you know, and that was young. I was a young girl, but you don't think about how that makes other people feel. So it's really important as women that we are more conscious of how we make that person feel, that they've plucked up the courage to ask you a question, and how we respond. You know, you can let people down nicely, kindly, and without crushing their confidence and making them even more petrified the next time to go and to talk to somebody. So it's really important that you let them down. Be kind.
So can I just say, from a girl's perspective though, don't be weird, because there are some weird.
I'm sure you John's taking John needs a drink for that one. You're making a lot of sounds here, John, so tell us what's going on. Yeah, you got to speak up.
Be honest. If like you're not interested in the person, just be honest. Don't like ask. I don't know. I know some people say, you might say it's not my season or things like that. Just be straight up. I think big guys
it's
will
not my
respect
season.
Yeah,
They'll say that to you.
It's
not my season. What does that mean? I don't know if it's because I'm older. What does that mean?
I think that especially in church, you try to obviously let guys down gently. You don't want to like completely crush their ego. So I think that a lot of girls try to find a very polite way of saying, actually, I'm not lying to you. But I think it is, again, girls, I think it is just being honest, because, you know, but I think it's also being realistic. I know a lot of girls have a very set thing in their mind of what kind of guy that they want. And a lot of the times they're not open to anything outside of what that image is in their mind. And I think you have to be open to, you know, he may not come in the package that you thought. He may not come in the shade of skin colour or the country that you thought. But you have to be open-minded, because at the end of the day, you don't know what God has for you. You don't know how he's going to be presented to you. And a lot of the times what you think you're going to have is actually not what you end up with in the end of it.
Well, I remember one girl, you know, she was in the same age group as me. She really wanted to get married, and she just had, she was a lady of colour, but she just had it in her head that she wanted to marry a white guy. And she had loads of guys approach her that liked her. She could have been married over and over again, but because she was just fixated on the colour of his skin, he had to be white. And she passed away now, and she never got to be a wife. She never got to be a mother, because she was just so stuck on he had to be this colour skin. And all the other men that came by, she was like, no, simply because she never took the time to get to know them, simply because they were just a wrong shade of complexion for her. And there's so many times, you know, we're stuck on where the location, geographically, the same country, is they've got to be from Nigeria, or they've got to be from Ghana, and they've got to be from Accra or Lagos, you know. And we get so fixated on proximity, and we don't allow God to actually put us together with that right person, you know?
Okay, so let's ask some questions.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. and ladies or men, you feel free to put your questions in the comments, and we will. I'm on the laptop, so I can see when you have comments. So let's ask this to Ofe. So, what are some of the most common first date errors women make, in your opinion? So, what is like a complete, I never want to see you again,
Yeah,
like
put
you're a
off.
write-off, first impression?
I'm not going to call you again.
Do you know, I think that there are a couple. One for me is if a girl is or was selfish
Okay.
or self-centered. And I think some of that, you know, it's a byproduct of the age that we live in, right?
Yeah.
It's like there's a lot of pressure to focus on how you look, how you're doing. Back in the day, there was a phrase, it's not used anymore, but, you know, status, have you got any status? And, you know, people really focused on a lot of that. And I think if someone's really self-centered, if you're dating and you're dating purposefully, you're pulling apart from these traits, actually, what would that translate into as a wife? And someone who's self-centered, that's someone who's supposed to look after you, your kids, your family, as in not just her extended family, but your extended family, and
That's
look
good.
after a household.
Really good.
So if they show self-centeredness even at a date,
Yeah.
you're extrapolating from that you might not have the qualities that you might be looking for in a wife.
And that's really good, because I think that especially in this day and age where, like you said, it's very much about how you present yourself visually.
Yeah.
So on social media, people sell a dream because, and they're
Yeah,
so
so
focused
true.
on what they put out via social media.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of
Yeah.
women feel like they need to buy into that. That they, you know, if I'm not keeping up with that image of, you know, the hair and the makeup and the clothes and everything, that they don't feel like they are enough. So is that a factor for you, John? Like, is it something that you pay attention to? Is it something you don't pay attention to? Does it matter to you?
Big factor in terms of what Offie was saying with self-centeredness. That one, it's a big turn off in terms of you could be talking to them and you ask them how their day was or things, and they tell you about you have a general interest in what they're saying. But then when it comes to the other way around, you might tell them about yourself, and somehow they've flipped it back to themselves. They literally don't have an interest. They just want to get
Does
back
that
to talking
happen
about.
often?
Not often, but I've experienced it, and you're like,
So girls
Is it
don't be
just like
shallow.
this?
Wow.
So what
It's not all about
happens
you.
when it's not all about you.
Yeah.
So what happens when that happens? Do you then not call her again,
in your head, you're hoping,
or you
that-
avoid her?
in your head, you're hoping that it changes. Maybe that was just a
Glitch.
one-off, a glitch. But the whole night, by the whole night, you know if
Yeah.
this is not going to go.
And the
that
thing is,
well.
you know, it's just one date sometimes, so you've only got that one moment, that one afternoon, that one coffee to read someone.
Yeah.
So you're gathering data, and there's not a lot of data to gather. So
Yeah.
if that's all that you saw of that girl that day, the likelihood of you asking and thinking, I just caught her on her bad day where she was self-centered for that one day.
She's like
Pretty
taking
unlikely.
selfies.
Yeah, it's pretty unlikely. Exactly.
I mean, how does that make you feel? Actually, you know, if you've ever been out, have you ever been out with a girl that's like got her phone out the whole time, taking photos of herself and the food? You know, this is what this generation
Yeah, a
is,
lot of
right?
them they'll record the food. I'm fine with
food's
that.
alright.
You're
I'm
okay
fine
with that? Okay.
You could do your selfie in the bathroom. That's fine. But if you're at the table, when I'm at the table, I usually put my phone on flight mode. 'Cause
Yes,
then it will
yeah.
That's
you
good.
message
That's
me
good.
and then just
Yeah.
concentrating. So yeah.
Well, I mean, for me, I personally find the phone an intrusion because if I'm out on a date with my husband or a dinner, our phones shouldn't be ringing.
Yeah.
To me, that's the equivalent of someone turning up
Yes.
and joining us. And for me, that's a big off-putting. You know, I think if I was dating a guy and he did that, I wouldn't want to see you again. That would be like a major put off for me.
Yeah.
You know.
I learned that ago, years ago. She goes, John, you're always on your phone when you're with me. You say, and I was like, from that day on, every time
Yeah,
I
you stopped
I put
it.
my phone on flight mode.
Okay, so we've been on our first date. Okay, second date. How do I get to the second date?
Yes.
So girls want to know, how do you get to the second date? So what do I do right in order on the first date to get to the
To
second
get a
one?
second one.
How do I get a call back?
Step by step.
The girls are all
Very taking notes.
The
You know,
girls are taking
I'll
notes.
put it out there. It's not Hitch, so this is it's not guaranteed to work. But I think for me, you know, step one is just, you know, show interest, right?
Yeah.
Show interest, and by that I mean it's a fine balance of not being too keen, not driving the process and pursuing the man, but also showing that, you know, you're open, right?
Yeah.
Because I think too many times I've seen this whole thing where And a lot of times it comes from girlfriends who say, oh, you know, don't respond too soon, delay by a couple hours for every message. And then sometimes it'll be the same girl who will say, why didn't your friend ask me for the second date? Because, you know, sometimes men were simpler beings, right? You didn't seem interested, so he moved on. So I think it's not about it's not about showing that you're too keen or putting yourself out there, but actually just showing that you are receptive, but still getting that balance right. So he should drive it. He should suggest we're going on a second date. But when he does, you know, be open rather than I'm available never.
Okay.
It's that game playing.
Yeah.
And I think so many people underrate good conversation.
Yeah.
Like I find it really hard to find people that are really interesting, where you want to keep a conversation going. Like I think have something to talk about when you go on a date, because that is the worst thing, when you have these awkward silences where you're just trying to fill these gaps and you're just boring. Like actually have something to talk about. And I think that's why it's great to get hobbies, travel the world, live your life, because these are all things that are great conversation starters, and it makes you more interesting. And that leads me to my next question. It's not on the, I don't know what order I'm going in, but I'm just going to go with it. Out of all the people, because that's the thing, like you have to, there's so many people that you could marry, that you could date. What was it about Marmia that made her the one? Because, you know, there's lots of nice people, there's lots of interesting people, but I think a lot of people want to know, how do you pin it down to one person?
Yeah, I think it starts with your mindset, right?
Yeah.
So how are you dating? Are you dating intentionally, and what are you looking for? And I think for me personally, if I'm being honest, before I met Marmia, so I was about 25 when I met her. Before that, I was, in the back of my mind, I kind of thought one day I'd get married, but I wasn't intentional about it. There was no purpose to it. And then when I decided and I became intentional about it, even though I'd met her a year before, immediately when I thought of actually what I wanted in a wife rather than just the hottest girl who'd say yes to me, then suddenly I realised actually I've known this person all along. I didn't know her well, but I'd met her, and even from the little that I knew of her, she already displayed traits that somewhere in the back of your mind, you know, this is wifey material, you know. And so I think what that looks like for me, she was godly. She was obviously godly. It was a big part of her life.
That was important for you.
It was important. And the funny thing is, it was important, but at the time that we actually met, I was in a backslidden state. But yet it was still important to me. It's almost like sometimes you know that, and particularly for me, if I think of my parents and the model that I was trying to replicate, I knew in the back of my mind that this is what I'd come back to, even in that state. So I think, you know, sometimes for Christian girls, you shouldn't be afraid to wear, you should be wearing your faith on your sleeve anyway, but you should certainly not be hiding it in a dating context, because actually if someone's going to be your godly husband, that's exactly what they should be looking out for. And I think all of that meant that she carried herself in a different way to other girls that certainly I knew, just her persona, her mannerisms. And you know, you made the point that people aren't necessarily the finished article when you find them, right? And so you won't necessarily find your Proverbs 31:10 woman like with all of those characteristics, but it's one of those things you only find once you're married. And it's because God has a wisdom that means he knew the things that you were looking for even before you did. And so I think, you know, being in God's will, being intentional about it, seeking God's face when the time came to make a decision was key. And for me, it kind of manifested not in a aha moment, but just there was a moment where I realized, and I don't know when it had happened, but I suddenly turned around and I thought, there's no other way that this could be other than with this woman. Like, it just wasn't a question.
You know when you know. Well, you know, there's something you said which is really interesting, because I think a lot of guys are looking to see all of that. And you were saying that you didn't see all of that at the forefront. So you know, there's certain things that's only revealed really when you're married. So you know, guys, that's kind of unrealistic to expect to see. Perfection. There's no faith there, because you're looking to see the whole thing. All the boxes ticked before you make that commitment. There has to be some level of faith. Right?
No, absolutely. And I think I said the converse is true, right? You yourself, if you look inwardly as a man, you're not necessarily perfect when you meet your wife. So in that same way, you should you know, view your potential prospective wife in that same lens.
That's good. That's really good.
Okay, John, as a single man, What makes a woman, well, single-ish, what makes a woman stand out from the crowd? So for you, obviously, you know, you're in that phase where you're not yet married, but you're on your journey, right? We've spoken prior to this. Marriage is something that you desire. So what are you looking for that's going to stand out from the crowd? So as a single man, you know, how do I sort through the she's nice but just a friend, or okay, this is something that I might want to pursue a bit further? What is it that stands out?
Well, to be honest, first of all, for myself, she has to be like attractive.
Okay.
She's gotta be attractive.
Okay, so attraction is definitely one.
First, but also she has to live what she says. So in terms of her faith, so that is how she is in church and how she's out. This is her. She's not like telling me saying one thing there and doing another thing there, just being real. And I like someone that's very real, honest, even in their struggles.
Yeah.
So don't try and put up a
front.
a front. Just be honest from. So yeah, that's the big thing. The honesty, just being real with who you are and what you've been through, things like that.
Okay.
Family, just someone that wants to build a family and they want a family. They're just nice people in general. So in terms of, for example, not someone that's just nice to me. Okay. Just you're a nice person in general. So I'm not worried like you and my friends and stuff. That they're gonna be like, oh, are you sure, John? Are you sure? You want to come like, nah, I like her. She's friendly. She's nice. And stuff like that. Yeah, exactly. Because I've grown up with them. So if they can't, if they think that, I mean, things like that. This literally.
I've got a question. You know, because for a girl, well, I've got two questions. First of all, let me ask this one first. Have you ever been on a first date and a girl brings up marriage?
Yeah, I have, and I think it's one of those things, you know, when you were talking about things that turn guys off. Yeah, it's that getting ahead of yourself. I wouldn't put it as too keen or too desperate, but getting ahead of yourself.
Or the wedding dress after the first date.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, the weird thing is, I guess when I was in a backslidden state, I dated a lot of girls who weren't saved, and I found that actually sometimes that getting ahead of yourself thing, sometimes as a byproduct of Christian girls, they're dating intentionally as well, and they're thinking and they're analysing, and there's a goal in mind, which is actually the correct attitude, but it's just a case of then taking a step back, because sometimes you can just see they're like, okay, attractive, saved, when are we married? And actually, you know,
let's close the deal.
Instantly, and I think it's just a case of, you know, giving themselves time.
Well, that
right?
must be really frightening. I think as a guy, you must feel like pressure because you don't even know her, and this woman's trying to close the deal on the table, and then God forbid you relinquish out of it. But have you ever had that?
Thank God.
But someone said that guys bring up marriage on a first date too sometimes. Really?
Yeah, some do.
Wow.
Some
Really?
do, yeah.
Okay, maybe like the super spiritual, super deep.
Well, I remember, Sarah's not here, she may be watching online, but I remember one guy, he was like, his conversation to her, I hope you're not watching, whoever you are, I don't remember who you are, so you can relax, but his conversation with her was, I can see we'll make beautiful babies together.
Wow.
Do not say that to a girl, guys. You know, she's not even dated you. That was just your way of like trying to ask her for a date. Oh, I can see us making beautiful babies together. That's a no-no. But that's cringe-worthy, and you're going to get shut down bad.
Yeah.
But the question I wanted to ask is, obviously, as Christian women, I think, even unsaved, women want to get married. You know, most women do. But how do you know that, you know, because I know from a lot of, you know, good girls, they don't want to be dating from one man to the next to the next. So how do you know if this guy, because you were saying that there was a time when you weren't ready, you weren't thinking about marriage. So how does a girl know that this guy's not ready, he's not serious, he's not thinking down that path, so he just wants a date, but there's no intention in his heart that this is going to go any further?
I think it's clear, to be honest, in terms of if a guy's intentional or serious,
You'll
he'll be
know.
consistent. He'll be
Okay.
consistent. He'll call you, message you.
Okay.
He'll invest, like spend money, or just he'll talk about things.
Okay.
Where if they're not, it's almost like you'll be chasing them. You'll be
Okay.
like, oh, when are we gonna meet up or stuff like that. You're chasing them. You can see that this person's not serious. But if this person's constantly, he just wants to spend time with you, and the conversation you're talking about, even if it's not future straight away, maybe a bit down the line, he's talking about, oh, where do you see yourself? There's just conversations
it's like
happening,
developmental conversation. It's more about
that
how
you know that
it's
this person.
And I think the second bit that you said is he's intentional, he's showing action, but
Yeah.
about what? Because actually a guy can be intentional, calling you and messaging you
And
to
he's
get into your
got
pants.
exactly.
It's also about
Exactly.
actually what's he intentional
Yes,
about,
exactly.
what's he trying
What
to
is
chase.
the
Is it
So how does
you
a
as
girl
well?
know what his intentions
If
are?
a guy's just wasting her
yeah,
time.
because I know
Yeah.
there was one girl, I recall a story, I think she'd been dating the guy for like 5 or 10 years. It was a long time. And she was dating him, thinking marriage was coming any time soon. So he was doing all of that stuff, but he had no intention of marrying her. And she eventually is like, you know what, I'm calling a day to it. And then, like within a year or so, he married someone else. So he was never. So what does a girl do with that? You know, you spend.
I think you both have to talk about it.
Yeah.
In those few months, you're talking about it.
But doesn't guys string girls along like that? They'll say what the girl wants
I guess
to
it's
hear.
happens for how long, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I think you're right. You have to talk about it. So that conversation where I said, don't get ahead of yourself and have that conversation on the first date.
Yeah.
But if you've been together, 6 months, a year, you should have had that conversation. So it's
Mm.
about also the girl
Yeah.
monitoring the timeline. It's something my wife did. She, in her head, not without pressuring me, but she had timelines in mind.
Okay.
And the funny thing is, I just about met them. Because, she said to me, if you hadn't done X, I might have called it off, or at least I'd have raised it. That,
Yeah.
where is
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
going?
Yeah.
There were landmarks in her mind that she'd drawn, and then should have then had sensible guard to say, we've reached a year without any either serious talk
Yes.
or engagement or whatever.
And
So-
I think that's really good. I think that men are great at stringing women along.
Yeah.
And it's not I'm not saying all men, but
No,
they
but
are
it does
good at
happen.
telling you what you
Yeah.
want to hear. So obviously most men know that all women want to get married. It's most girls' dream from the time that they're little, that they dream of their dress and their wedding and everything else. And I think it's cruel for men to do that. That if you know that your intention isn't right, and we have a lot of men online tonight. I think if your intention isn't to they're rooting for you, by the way. If your intention isn't to go all the way, stop making empty promises
Yes.
because
It's
you're
not
wasting
fair.
her time.
It's not
And
fair.
you're breaking her heart in the process. And I think just be a man up. And if you're not going to do it, step aside and let somebody
Let
else
someone
do
else.
it.
Yeah.
Because there are great men that are willing to step up to the plate.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing you should always, if you're dating a guy that has no intention of going all the way through, give him the ultimatum.
Yeah.
If you're not going to step aside, because the reality is if another guy comes to seek you out, from his perspective, you're taken.
Yeah.
So he's
Yeah.
not going to go there. A good guy will not go there. So if you know that this isn't going anywhere, don't be afraid to be the one to say, you know what?
Bye.
I'm good. See you. You had your moment. You wasted my time.
Yeah.
Next.
Yeah.
I have another question. It's off script, sorry guys. There's something I used to tell the women to say, and I want you to let me know, is this, what if a girl said this to you, how would that have made you feel? If after dating for a period of time, it's not the first date, she turns around and says to you, what are your intentions towards me? Is that a no-no question or is that an okay question? What are your... Because obviously you've asked me out on a few dates, so I'm asking you basically, where's this going? What's your intentions? Is that a fair question?
I think it is a fair question. I mean, I think if she put it exactly like that, as formal, I might be a bit. but if she asked that question, like, where's this going? And I think also not jumping ahead of yourself. So
Yeah.
if you are dating, and the girl's mind, she's thinking, okay, when are we going to move to courting or being more serious? If she asks, what are your intentions in the sense of moving to that next step, logically, rather than you've been dating for a while, and what's your intention in terms of us getting married? So it's about thinking of what are the steps in the relationship, and then testing to see, are we going to move to that next logical step? So I guess it's about reading.
That's good. So what would you say are the steps?
Yes.
I think to me...
Take notes, girls.
Take notes.
I think it's different for everyone, right?
Yeah.
Some people, I wasn't friends with my wife for a long time. Like, I knew her and knew of her, but then when we started dating, we moved almost immediately from like dating to courting. So I think we went from a couple dates, and then it was, what they call these days exclusive. So it's different. It's different.
I've heard that one before.
Oh yeah, there's exclusive, non-exclusive,
Oh, really?
friends with
What's that
benefits, side
Wow.
piece. There's a whole entanglement.
That's the new one, entanglement.
No, friends with benefits,
Benefits.
They might be benefit as well. But I think it's about trying to figure out what
Makes me
stage
feel
of the way. I feel old. When I heard entanglement, that was a new one. But I think it's about knowing
So
what
an
stage you want to
entanglement
be.
is not a good one.
No.
You don't want to be entangled. You really don't.
Yeah, exactly. I think entanglement is what people used to call friends with benefits, or a side.
Wow.
Or affairs.
Yeah, or affairs.
Basically.
So I think it's about really, assessing where are you, where do you want to be, and to me, there's a dating stage where it's fact finding, you're not tied into anything, and then there's a more formal stage where actually you're, as they call it, exclusive, but also you're moving towards marriage. And I think if a girl even tests to see that we're moving towards that more formal stage, you can then relax a bit to enjoy that phase, and then at a certain point it'll come apparent to you that actually I need to check, are we now going to become engaged, and so on.
Okay, so we have a question. What do you think of guys who don't want to be in the friend zone but want to be seen as a boyfriend from the very start? I'm not sure. What do you think of guys who don't want to be in the friend zone but want to be seen as a boyfriend from the very start? So they want to go from 0 to 100 basically from the beginning.
I mean, I guess it depends as to how the girl responds to that.
A woman asking that?
Yes, it's a woman asking.
Okay.
Because to some degree you should want the guy to be very interested in you, but I guess it's about also
It's too much too
soon,
soon,
and
right?
you controlling the timing
Yeah.
so that you don't move from that
Yeah.
stage. If you want to just date the person and find out, you
Because you
can.
don't know him yet.
Correct.
Come on, girls. You
Yeah.
I
don't know
always
him
think-
yet, and I think in that situation it would be like, slow down.
Yeah.
Let's gather some more information. You don't know me, I don't know you.
Yeah.
So you could put the brakes on and say, let's slow this thing down and look at what we see and discover in each other, because you could be marrying, or this guy that wants to take it to 0 to 100, he could be a paedophile, he could have a criminal record. You know nothing about him. So you slow it down. If he's wanting to go at that pace, you need to set the pace at a slower pace till you gather that data.
Yeah. John, okay, this is a massive one, I think, because a lot of women misread signs, or they think that you want more when actually you're just being friendly and nice, but then they're already like a million miles ahead. How do we, as a woman, read signs? So a lot, like for example, I have a friend who a lot of the time she gets to the friendship stage, but it's almost like she doesn't know how to transition from friendship to anything else. So she's always in the friend zone. So how do you...
Is it okay for a girl to say I fancy you?
No, I would definitely
I'm talking about moving it from a friend zone. So you're just like so coy, and you're just like not. Can she give you that push over the edge where you obviously are feeling that way, but you just need help?
No, but I think it's how do we read the signs?
Yeah.
I think that's so difficult because guys can send off. It is that difference between, okay, you're just really friendly, you're a really nice guy, like you're somebody's very chatty, like a lot of guys that are people, they're really good with people. A lot of the times it can almost come across as flirting. So what's that boundary? How do you know, okay, you're my friend, or actually you're showing a bit of interest, how do I respond to that? So what are some of the signs that we can sometimes misread as women?
I feel like there should be, if he's a people person, and you can see that this is generally how he acts towards people, then I feel like don't jump in, don't get too excited. He should be able to be clear with his actions and his words. I just believe that if you're a guy,
be clear,
be
man.
clear.
I've heard this many times. That's why I'm kind of staying here. That there are women that they've written a whole storybook, a whole fairy tale of what this relationship is, because they've seen signs in their mind that this is going somewhere, because a guy's shown them attention, or he's spent time with them, or he's genuinely being a friend. How do they then decipher between, okay, we're friends, no, actually, we want more? Is it that you will just tell her, or is it that we should take a step? Because I think a lot of women don't know whether they should do something, or if they're just waiting for a man to tell them how they feel.
I can't say if she wants to take a step. Honestly, I just think
For you.
For me,
Yes.
For me, it's if he's spending a lot of time with you, and he's doing some things with you that are different for everyone, because as you said, you could be a people person, but for you specifically, he's spending a lot more time with you, he's doing more things with you, then I'm not saying that you should go and might say something, but if you did say something to him, like...
But he should be capable of
he should be.
Yeah.
Honestly,
if
the guy
she's
should
being
be
receptive and
Okay.
showing that I could be open to you trying to take it further, then I think it's still incumbent upon a guy to those steps and stages that I mentioned to do the prompting to take it there. So if it's been a year and he's been very friendly with you, he hangs out with you, but you're not dating or courting, that's just a sign that, again, he's either a people person or he's a time waster. So some people are weird. They like having sort of pseudo
People
relationships
around.
with
Yes.
girls.
Yeah.
but
So
He
they-
needs to say
We've got in the comments, if unsure, just ask. So
Yeah.
this is from the men. So if you're unsure, girls,
Yeah.
just ask. Does it make it awkward then if you ask?
I think there's a fear that if you ask, that you're going to lose
A
a
friend.
really good friendship.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you
Again,
should,
honest.
shouldn't.
Yeah.
But you
Yeah,
shouldn't.
if it's-
So that
I
wouldn't
think
make
there's
it
a fear.
weird. If you feel like this is something and you ask, it's not going to make it awkward.
just scratch. Now you know where you stand.
Okay.
At least it's done.
And
If
I
it's
think as well, understanding that communication is a really, really important part of any relationship. That's really important to develop that from get-go, that you learn to talk about things, because you know what you're thinking, he's not mind reader, etc. And it's really important that we learn to verbalize our thoughts and our feelings. I mean, obviously you're not going to offload, but communication is really, and if that relationship is going somewhere, that has to be a basis that you learn to be honest. And because if I'm not telling you how I feel, I'm not being honest. Because I can be feeling one way, but I'm putting on a front. And that's not going to help you if that relationship were to go to the next level where you're talking about marriage. So I think from the get-go, communication has to be the key.
Definitely.
If you're unsure about something, there's nothing wrong with asking the question.
Okay, so Ofe, was there ever any fear when it came to making the commitment of marriage? Because a lot of men are afraid to take that next step. So they're happy to date, but actually transitioning from a dating man to a married man, was there any fear? And if so, when you did get married, what did that look like for you in terms of the commitment?
Yeah, I think for me, there wasn't any fear, but I kind of moved from one phase of my life to another, so one where I wasn't really thinking about it. And then when I did start thinking about it, being really intentional with it, I think from my perspective as a married man, being married is the best thing that's ever happened to me. I think, and you know, the opposite of that fear of commitment, it's something that I guess I don't quite fully understand. There's also the comfort of, you know, you're doing life with someone and you're doing life with that person together, which is great. And, you know, I think certainly with my wife, we're certainly better together, and we wouldn't be where we were if we were apart as individuals and as a couple. And so for me, I guess I didn't view it as something to be fearful of, but one thing that I do think is that there's there was no fear also because I guess we're operating in God's will. You know, there's this thing that anyone who's done premarital counselling at V2V knows. Pastor always, he'll ask this question of the guys. It's like a trick question, and he'll say,
Trick question.
why do you want to marry this girl? And you'd always hear like one guy would be like, because she's fine. It was like, wrong answer. And people saying all these things. She's lovely. Like we're really in love. And Pastor would always be smiling like, nope, that's not the one. And I will confess, we had some friends who had done the course before us, and they were like, Pastor's going to ask you this.
Not
allowed
to do that.
And the thing is, I did have that piece though, that it's the perfect will of God.
Yeah.
But one thing that I will just say is there's a scripture in the Bible where that phrase is referenced, but there's a lot more to it. So it starts with do not be conformed to the way of this world. And I think one thing is be really cognizant of the way of the world. We live in a really consumerist society. It's more focused on self. That is the antithesis of actually serving a wife, serving a husband, and getting together. So already there's a lot of pressure on all of us as individuals to actually think, I need to get my career going, do my thing. I don't want to be hampered by, a wife who will hold me down or kids who will hold me down.
Really
so
good.
you really need to think about that. And then I think the other thing is, it's the mindset, right? It says, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So what's your mindset? And actually, if I've got a worldly mindset, we're all natural, right? So sometimes we're all susceptible to that. I was thinking so much of myself, getting rich, doing this, that I wasn't thinking about being open to actually, where's my life partner? But actually, it's renewing that. And as part of that, casting down fear. If you have a fear of commitment, that's something that's not of God. So it's about trying to cast down that fear and also getting to the root of why am I fearful. And sometimes for people it's practical things, right? They haven't seen a good model of marriage, and it's once you actually take the time to think about it, you realize actually it's because I'm afraid of replicating what I've seen or what I've been through, and it's something you have to be active in coming against.
Yeah, that's really good.
There was something you said which kind of triggered a question in my mind. You talked about that it wasn't I've lost my train of thought there, but we have guys today who that was it. A lot of guys today have this mindset that they want to be rich, they want to get rich before they make those steps and commitment.
Women want to do career first too.
But it seems to be something, John will probably be able to open that up a bit more for us, but that seems to be the mindset of a lot of young guys today. It's like we want to get rich and then we'll deal with that phase later, but yet they still want to date girls.
I think it's rooted in some sort of trauma. Why I say that is because a lot of guys are like, they want to get rich to like prove, I've made it. I've come out from where I was, I made it, and now I can...
So trying to prove something.
Yeah, just proving stuff. When you really... And I've been in that stage where I'll be like, like maybe my dad said stuff to me, I'm going to prove watch, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to build this. And it's the wrong reasons. And I feel like a lot of people, and a lot of guys I've spoken to, because I saw a tweet that said, guys deal with trauma by trying to get rich. I saw this and I was speaking to my friend. And he was saying, a lot of them, you sit there like, we're just trying to prove someone wrong, prove people wrong and trying to make it where really you can do it together. You're not just trying.
Absolutely.
And it's easier and it's better together.
It is better together. And I think that it's just something so beautiful, I think, about when two people come together and start something from nothing and build together. It's so much more rewarding. I think that you develop so much as a couple together when you unite, and it really lays a foundation of unity in your marriage when you have to build together. And there's also nothing wrong with having things or having a career or being established when you go into a marriage. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying that now you must be like dirt poor, like when you come together. It doesn't have to be that. You can obviously both establish yourself and come together, but there's something about when you work together and build a foundation and build upon that foundation as a married couple that really strengthens you. And I think when you allow God to be the center of all of that, it's just, there's nothing like that. And I think when we're trying to do things in our own strength and like you said, acquiring things, is God the center? Is he the focus? Is he the one that, you know, is he said that this is how it's supposed to go? And I think it's always going back to that blueprint of what God says. Is this his order? You know, and I think that when you're seeking a husband or you're seeking a wife, you have to go to God first. And it is like what you said, Ofe, like you will have that perfect peace. And it might not make sense. And you hear this so many times with different couples that have gone through the marriage process that, you know, they went into planning a wedding with absolutely nothing. And God just showed up and he provided and he continues to provide it. And it's when you take that step and you take that step of faith that God will intervene and he'll meet you where you're at. So we're running out of time, so we have a few other questions before, guys, if you want to ask questions, please do now. We're almost out of time. So quickly, John, in order, because a lot of women want to know, what's your order of priority? So what's the most important to you? So I've got a few different things. She's born again, physically attractive, intellectual, culture or race. Some people won't marry outside of their culture or race. Age is a massive thing in this day and age. I married my husband. He's 10 years younger than me. So whether she has children or not, again, we live in a generation where people do, or people go from a prior marriage into another marriage. So what would you say is your order, or what matters to you, or what is a complete no-no to you? No pressure. No pressure.
So yeah, definitely she has to be born again. That's not even a question. Attractive. Let's not lie, because I'm going to be speaking. You could be so intellectual. What you say is, I love what you say, but there has to be an attraction as well. Intellectual. Yeah, we can't just be talking about things. There's conversations that we need to have. Culture, race. Culture, not really. Race.
Be honest, John.
This is your personal preference,
this is
right?
your preference.
It's not a right or wrong answer. It's his personal.
So yeah, race. I like to keep within my same race.
Okay.
Yeah. Age. I do have so I'm turning 30 in a couple of days. So
happy birthday.
25 is the absolute in terms
minimum.
Of young, yeah.
Okay.
And then
I see you wouldn't date a girl that's 20.
no.
Okay. Would you date an older woman?
Yes.
Ooh.
Okay.
A little bit older, not like so. 30, well, in my head, 35 is my maximum.
Okay.
And if they have a child or not, before when I was younger, I was like, no,
Yeah.
definitely not. I'm definitely open to it now.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Just a quick side question. You know, a lot of girls today wear a lot of this contouring, and they all look the same. By the way, everyone looks the same because they do the same look on their face. Does that bother you, or do you want to see what a girl actually looks like underneath all of that?
As long as I've seen her, how she looks without her makeup, and she's good. If she puts makeup.
Because you've seen all these things where on their wedding night, it's like, you wake up with
as long as without makeup, she's good, she's great.
Yeah.
Enhance you.
But what is good?
Huh?
What is good?
I mean, everyone individually is different.
Yeah,
for
beauty's in
everyone.
the
But for
eyes of the
me,
beholder.
What is? Because someone might say she has to have amazing skin, or she has to have her eyebrows have to look great without pencil on it. What is good? What is good?
It's not about detail.
I don't know if I'm just looking at her, she's like, yeah, she's nice, she's good.
Apparently, John likes makeup.
Calling you out.
I mean, as long as she's good without it,
that's good
I'm told,
to know,
yeah.
and I think that's really important to know, because some guys they don't like girls with makeup, and then some guys is like, please. I remember one time I took this lady out as a pastor's wife, and I took her out, and I took her to one of these makeup counters. And got her hair done, and her husband was like, "Thank you." So I know. So some guys want you to make that effort, and that again, that's something. So if I'm, for example, one of a woman that's not really bothered, don't even put any makeup on my face, and my husband likes that, I think as women we should make the effort, because men are very visual. That is actually the first thing. A man moves based on not what's inside your brain. He'll find out about that later. But the first thing a man moves according to what they see. They're attracted, and that's when they initially
Can I ask a question on this? Actually, I had this conversation a few years back with a few of my girls, and we were basically away. And at night time, I don't wear wigs, but I know a lot of people do. At night time, she kind of propped her wig onto a little stand, you know, the little model headstand model thing. And, you know, she went to bed, like, with her hair braided. Is that, like, does that matter to you? No, you're fine with that? Okay.
I've been in the car with my friends, and then she literally got in the car, then she literally took off her wig in the car and started driving. I was like, oh, my braids were fine, so it was all good.
Oh,
Okay, I know for
that could have been a thing, couldn't it? Because she's like comfortable with you, right? That could have been something.
Yeah, that was fine. I was like, comfortable.
It's fine.
My husband would take that. He doesn't. I have to have natural hair. But I think girls have to make an effort in terms of whatever that looks like, even if you're being natural. And I always say this to Jerome. I said, wherever you go, always make an effort. So if you're going to the supermarket, make an effort. If you're going to just go for a jog, make sure that your gym stuff matches. It's just, I think it's just making an effort. You know, don't just go out however, like at least just slick back your hair or whatever. Just look presentable. Always look presentable. And I think girls, you know, if you, not just if you're looking for a husband, but if you are already married, like, make an effort to look presentable. Don't think now that you have him that it's all good and that you're, you know, you've hit the home run. Like, you have to keep him. Like, you have to want him to still find you attractive
In 20
even
years,
after
in
marriage.
30 years.
Yeah.
It is that constant maintenance of looking after yourself. A lot of girls get into this where they get married and it's like, oh, I've got the ring on my finger now, so everything goes north, south, east and west. We don't do ourselves anymore. And it's that maintaining that appeal, because he did see you first. And you want to make sure that he still sees you every day, because there's lots of other girls that he passes that looks attractive, and men's eyes, that's just the way they are. Christian men or not, they were attracted to you, and we have to maintain that, so we maintain the look. But before, you know, I know we're getting short on time, but one of the things I would say to those of you, men and women, that are looking to get married is one of the ways that you can prepare, not just fixating on your appearance, but save. One of the things within Christianity that I find is that the girls are waiting for this guy. You know you want to get married, but you don't have two pennies to rub together. And the same thing with the guy. So now he sees a girl, he can't even find tuppence, and now he has got no money to buy an engagement ring. You want to be in a place that when you do meet her, you can bam, 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 you take those steps, right? And you can... you don't have to think about, oh, I need 6 months to save up for the ring and stuff like that, and the cost of a wedding, and then the cost of finding somewhere to live. Save now. You know you want to get married, guys. You know you want to get married, girls. Save. We don't wait for the man to do that. And just before we close, what is your opinions on girls demanding expensive engagement rings? You know, I've seen where girls have like, that's too small. Take it back.
No,
change it.
I remember one girl.
Yeah.
No, but I remember one girl. She, I remember she got engaged, and obviously the first thing that everyone does when you get engaged is, oh my gosh, let me see your ring.
Yeah.
And
It's
she
like,
literally, she literally, she talked about, she basically downplayed the ring. So she said, oh, you know, it doesn't, you know, it's a little bit small, and oh, you know, this isn't going to be my forever ring, and you know, I'm, you know, he's hopefully going to change it soon.
Oh, no.
And she kind of, I think that
made him feel great.
No, but can I just say that, you know, I was always taught that you should be giving your best. You know, if this is your wife forever. You know, I shouldn't have to change my ring if I don't want to. Like, this is, and I know obviously everyone's at different price point, everyone's got different budgets, but I think at least do your best. Like, I don't think it should be like an afterthought.
Yeah.
It should be exactly what you said, your best. And if your best is
£500.
Yeah, it's your best, isn't it? So relative of what you're doing at the moment. Obviously, again, it could be later down the line you might change it, but relative, as long as you've given the best of what you can do, then hopefully.
And that's what
she's
she
been
should be
with,
focusing
yeah, exactly.
on.
Because
Yeah.
you've been, if you've been with her
Yes.
and you are courting, so she should know. Really, she should know.
She knows your budget.
Yeah, stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
So
and as long as she knows this is you've given of your best, it is what it is. You
Yeah.
know? I think it's a bad thing if a girl's expecting that you go out and incur debt
Yeah.
in order to get a ring that you can't
live in
afford.
it.
That's not even.
You
But
can't
this
live
is
in a ring.
that's a good thing though. That's a good topic because how do you then introduce talking about money?
Yeah.
At what point, you know, if we realise, okay, we are building a future, a lot of people, money is one of those things that it's especially if you've got bad credit or you know you don't have anything or you know you maybe sold a dream and you portrayed a lifestyle that you actually don't live or you know, how do you then broach that topic of finances, because that can be a massive deal breaker if you don't talk about that.
I think if you're dating seriously, you talk about it. Particularly, so if you're dating seriously, you're dating and the purpose is towards marriage, there's a wedding that has to be paid for in the near future. That already opens up the topic to how do we pay for that, and also more so than the wedding, what are the next steps? So if we don't have a home that we own, how are we saving towards a deposit for a flat or our place? And that's also part of the dreaming. I don't think it's scary or threatening for a guy that we're talking about it then, because it's also coming at it from a point of teamwork. How do we put this together such that we can get married and have a place to live? So I think it's a very natural conversation to have, and you should definitely be having it if you're dating seriously.
And I think girls, don't be afraid to ask that question, because you know, at the end of the day, if you're in the dark, you don't know what you have to build with. You know, at the end of the day, weddings cost money, life costs money. And I think if you're going into it with all this debt, for example, that needs to be laid out on the table from the get-go, because, okay, how do we now combat this debt? How do we tackle paying this debt off? Because, you know, it shouldn't be that you're in debt and she never knows or he never knows and you've kind of come in and you're being secretive. Those finances is one of the main factors for why people divorce.
And talking about your dreams, because those are financial. There's a financial. You know, you may want a house as a woman. You may want your own home. You may not want to spend your life living in a council property or rented property. So that needs to be talked about, because I know a lady who married a guy and lived in a council place, but he had no intention of ever buying his own, and in fact he got upset with her when she brought the subject up. This is after she's married to him now. So these things need to be talked about. Communication. You need to know, because that's a deal breaker for me. If you're like, well, no, I'm happy to live in a council flat for all our married life, I'll be like, well, that is not my dream, so I'm gone.
See you later.
And that's both ways, because the girl may not have any ambition, or she may not feel that's something that's important for her, but you may feel that's important for you, because that's a commitment, a life commitment, really, isn't it? A mortgage. So this is something that can break a marriage. So
and your visions and your dreams have to align, because you are doing life together, and you know you can't live separately. You are literally, when you get married, everything, there's no me or there's no I. There is, it's all about us, and we are building together, and that means there has to be transparency in every area of your life. So there can't be secrets. Secrets are not something that you can bring into marriage. And I think these are all habits that you should develop in the dating stage, where you begin to be transparent, because you're going to absolutely 100% need to be able to communicate transparently in marriage in order for it to be effective anyway.
I know we've got a couple minutes left. John, can you give the ladies 5 things that they can do? Words of wisdom.
Just some words of wisdom.
Give them some words of wisdom to the single ladies out there.
As in
practical stuff.
Practical.
Spot.
Okay, while he's thinking about that, okay, can you give the guys out there some tips on how to date and how to
Go to that next step.
Yeah, go to the next step.
Yeah, I think for me, being intentional,
Mm-hmm.
being prayerful when it starts getting serious, stepping up, being bold, showing the signs and the traits that you're going to show her when you're married, right? If I can't step up to ask you out, I won't be able to step up when we as a family need to do big things. So I think showing some of those signs at the beginning, and yeah, you know, the getting rich point, save so that you're at a sensible point and you can take care of your new wife, but don't focus too much on getting rich.
Yeah,
Definitely.
John, just one. Just one. We've like literally got a few minutes, well, less than a minute.
Less than a minute.
I feel when a guy takes first date, be yourself. Don't try to overthink it. Don't try and step up thinking years and years. Be yourself. And I just feel like if he's approached you to take you on a date, then he's interested. So just be yourself.
Thank you guys
Thank
so
you
much.
so
I hope you
much.
learned something tonight. Thank you for tuning in to Girl Talk. We'll see you again next week.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.